This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. Delighted, as always, to be joined by Eddie Hearn. We are here in the Okolie Glovatsky Fight Week bubble in London. How are you, Ed?
Very good, very good. Very excited, very a little bit nervous about tomorrow night. I mean, I just think, like, Lawrence seems so confident, doesn't he, strolling around here with Shane, and it's either they're too confident and they're underestimating Glowacki, or they're just supremely confident for the right reasons and they believe they're going to do a job on him. And this is a proper fight, very tough fight, legitimate world championship fight, and good to see a vacant title contested with a real challenge. You know, it's if Lawrence can overcome Glovatsky on Saturday, no one can really complain that he doesn't deserve to become world champion. So excited for him, and a great card as well.
We'll come on to the rest of the card in a minute. Let's just start on the main event, work our way down. Obviously not ideal last time out for the fight not to happen at short notice. Okolie got out against Usyk. How vital, how important do you think that could be for him, having experienced the surroundings behind closed doors boxing?
Yeah, he was behind closed doors, but it was a crowd, wasn't it? And that's very different to how it will be tomorrow night. I think in here is a bit more, you know, he spent his time in the bubble. He's had that experience. He boxed an orthodox fighter last time, but I think it was good to get out. You know, Glovatsky has been inactive since the Brady's fight, obviously, as most fighters have been. But Lawrence did get that run out, and I think that will put him in good stead. I think what we saw was the improvements he's made under Shane McGuigan, and I think you'll see more of that, I believe, tomorrow night. I just when you analyse the fight, you just start thinking about Glovatsky and how experienced he is, and clever he might be, and tough he might be. And Lawrence has never boxed anyone even remotely close to this level. You could argue that Lawrence has never boxed a world-class fighter, a world top 15 fighter. I know that his European title challenge was, you know, he was top 15 with some governing bodies, but you know, when you look at the resume of Glovatsky and the levels he's boxed at, this is an extreme challenge.
Saying all the right things yesterday in the press conference, he was saying that he doesn't want to go into a trench warfare. He wants to show that he's levels and levels above. From your perspective, and I'm sure from 258's perspective, most important thing is the win, however it comes.
Yeah, I think he's right. I think, you know, again, there's a lot of unanswered questions about Okolie. The last thing you want to be doing is being in a war with Glovatsky after 6 or 7 rounds and starting to unravel a little bit and starting to get a bit tired. I think the plan from Lawrence Okolie is to take him out early. And he has the power to knock any cruiserweight out. But Glovatsky's got the experience where he's not just going to be in front of him like Usyk was. He's not going to be as, in my opinion, it won't be as routine a victory as that. I think he's going to have to come through a rough ride at times. And listen, if he does, bloody right and all. This is a world title shot. You know, if he cruises through here, he's outstandingly good. So I expect him to be in a very tough fight tomorrow night.
Flicking through the rest of the card, staying with McGuigan's gym and the cruiserweights, Chris Smith's got himself a very interesting fight. I had a couple of phone calls from a couple of matchmakers who were telling me that, you know, Vasyl Ducar is no one to be played around with. Tough fight, potential banana skin for him.
Fantastic fight, and sometimes you look at the record, what's his record, 10-3 or something like that. But look at who he's boxed. He's boxed Lorena, he's boxed Igorov, who's boxing Gulamarin, proper tough cruiserweights, and gone the distance with them. This is a really tough fight. I mean, I think Smith's the favourite, but you could call it a 50-50 fight. I mean, again, when you start breaking down the records and looking at them, okay, well, Chris Smith, he lost to Rayford, very close fight, but not off his own back. He hasn't really had the big fights after, you know, Craig Glover, but he got beat, you know, himself over 8 rounds. So this is a real big test. It's a bit like the Fortea fight for Fowler. You know, you get people, oh, Fortea, oh, Duca, who's these people? These are good fighters. You know, Fortea just boxed the IBF #1, went 12 rounds with him, big puncher. And Anthony's last fight was against Adam Harper. No disrespect to Adam Harper, but he's an area title, an English title level guy. So I think the Smith-Duca fight, I think it's going to be one where you're going to be, I love the cruiserweights because they can punch, they're fast, they're athletic. And in that fight, you've got 2 sort of young cruiserweights who like to let their hands go, probably both a little bit vulnerable at times, but Duca's body language was almost like someone who has been slung right in the deep end. I mean, he was fighting Lorena. What was it? He's like his 7th or 8th fight. Lorena's a good fighter. Igorov's a tough man. I think Smith Duca's going to, you know, could be fight of the night.
also knocked out Pacer, who of course we saw on the Eggington-Smith undercard knockout Craig Glover. Final one on Chris Billam-Smith. Where are we with the British title with him? Obviously, Dion June was supposed to be mandatory, but we don't really have any indication of him returning to the ring.
It's really frustrating because, he pulled out the fight I can't remember when it was now, last year, and we were told that he'd be ready to fight again, obviously for this date. Other people said he won't be, but I was told he would be. Eventually, I've been saying ultimately a lot in
Lawrence Okolie's been saying it a lot lately as well. Maybe that's where you picked it up.
Yeah, maybe. So I'm going to stop saying it. But ultimately, we want to fight for the British title, and look, the fight I want to make is Tommy McCarthy against Chris Billam-Smith. If Chris can get through on Saturday, we go straight into that fight in the summer. We've got big plans for Fight Camp, and that would be a great fight for the undercard of Fight Camp. So, see if he can get through.
Mentioned Anthony Fowler against Jorge Fortea. Went 12 rounds with Murtazaliev, great fighter in his own right. He's 30 years old now. Obviously, everybody's been speaking about the Fitzgerald rematch. Shane McGuigan and Anthony Fowler have said they don't want to hang on for that, and if possible, they want to box Sergio Garcia. But all depends really on how he looks tomorrow night against Fortea.
I think it's a good test for him because Fortea is quite cute. I think he'll frustrate Fowler a little bit early on, but I think Anthony's footwork has improved, his movements have improved, and this is a really good fight to see where he is with Shane. You are right, he's 30, absolutely no point holding him back at all. I want to see the Fitzgerald fight, but I agree with Shane and Fowler. We can't base Anthony's career around Scott Fitzgerald rematch, although he wants it badly. Fitz is due to come back, looks like actually May the 1st he's going to fight, and then my plan is to do that fight in September, October. And get it done. It's a really good fight for British boxing. I think both guys would like the rematch. It's a big money fight for both. But I also really like the Sergio Garcia fight for Fowler. That's a tough fight. There's another guy who likes to move and he's fast on his feet. But Fowler, we've got to find out now if Fowler's going to progress. And I think we get him some momentum, get a good win tomorrow night, and then him and Shane are ready to take the challenges. And that's an exciting point in his career.
Elsewhere on the card tomorrow night, the return of women's boxing. Ramla Ali returns to the ring, as does Ellie Scotney. Last year was a great year for women's boxing. I'm guessing you have some big plans for 2021.
Yeah, Ramla Ali's in a really tough fight against Bet Connolly. She's given away a lot of weight because Bet Connolly came in late notice. You know how tough she is. Ramla Ali's only had one professional fight. Ellie Scotney, good fight against Gangloff. Ellie Scotney's a real talent, so is Ramla. But Ellie's got the deep amateur pedigree, and I think she could win a world title in her next fight. I really do. And I just feel that now with the emergence and the growth of women's boxing, you've got to do something a little bit different, a little bit special. And I think with Ellie, there's no point holding her back. Win on Saturday, fight an 8-rounder, and then go and fight for the world title because she's good enough. And there's no point just hanging around because there isn't the depth in the divisions for loads of opponents. And it's fantastic on that super bantamweight division and bantamweight. You've got Ebony Bridges against Shannon Courtney. You've got Ramla Ali. You've got Rachel Ball. You've got Ellie Scotney. You've got Timlin and Skelly rematch as well. You've got Lisa Whiteside. So you've got a fantastic little mix there. And women's boxing's in a great place. We announced Katie Taylor's fight tonight. Clarissa Shields, doing great things. Hopefully we can make the Savannah Marshall fight. She's fighting on April 10th. Chantel Cameron's injured, but she'll be back in sort of May time. And then, of course, Courtney against Bridges, which is going to raise some eyebrows.
Certainly going to raise some eyebrows. Probably going to raise a few heartbeats from what I've seen from people on Twitter. I think I saw some quotes from Ebony Bridges talking about being a lingerie show or something like that recently. Is that an interesting way to sell a fight?
Yeah, I just think each to their own, isn't it? I mean, what I like about Ebony, excuse me, my phone's going off. What I like about Ebony is she doesn't hide the fact that, that's the route she wants to take in terms of getting herself exposure, and she's happy to do so. Each to their own. I have no problem with that at all. I have no problem with conducting yourself in any way that you feel is good for your career. I think Ebony Bridges is a good fighter. She's quite inexperienced. She's WBA number 5. She's had a good win at the weekend. She was due to fight Rachel Ball originally for the vacant title and then got injured. So she's now going to fight Shannon Courtney. And then the winner, hopefully, will fight Rachel Ball because Rachel Ball is, coming off a COVID illness and not yet recovered. So, I'm sure there'll be some controversy for that fight week. And some people, I mean, Ebony already has a big fan base in the UK. Some people will like her, some people won't like what she's doing, but I don't think she really cares. I think she's focused on herself, her career, but she wants to win. You know, forget all the joking around and this and the weigh-in and the lingerie. She loves to fight, and it's going to be a really good fight.
Before we move on, let's move back, talk about this past weekend. Chocolatito Estrada, it's been a fight that we've waited for years and years and years. Didn't disappoint one bit. Sensational fight between the two of them.
Yeah, probably the best fight I've seen live, to be honest with you. Just incredible. I think, again, whenever you get one bad scorecard, it sort of amplifies people saying it was a robbery. I can't see how in any way it was a robbery. I felt Chocolatito just edged the fight with a great 12th round. But we once again saw a scorecard that no one else had, other than Carlos Sucre, right? So, and that's the problem. Boxing scoring is subjective, but when no one else scores it like that in the world, is that acceptable? And when you give, I think, I have to check this, but I believe he gave Estrada the last 5 rounds, and 12th round was clear as day for Chocolatito, you know? So, yeah, it was tremendous, and I would like to make number 3. I mean, I actually thought that Estrada would probably be thinking, well, that was close. Got a little, not a gift, but was a little bit lucky there. I ain't fighting him again. But he sort of come back and said, no, I think the fans want number 3, let's do it. And we'll talk to both guys and maybe make number 3 later in the year.
The night before that, we saw Rungvisai solidify his status as WBC mandatory. Could we see a situation where potentially Estrada gets elevated to franchise champion and that fight can get made? The trilogy fight between Chocolatito and Estrada?
I actually spoke to Maurizio Suleiman about it the other day, and I said, I have to be honest, Maurizio, and listen, he's had a huge amount of criticism about the franchise championship. I said, I don't really like the franchise championship. I said, but you have a situation here where we must make sure that Rungvisai fights for the title next. He's just stepped aside. Like, we represent him as well, so we have an obligation to do what's right. But I feel like people will be disappointed if we don't make the 3rd fight between Estrada and Chocolatito. So here's actually a situation where the franchise championship would work to the benefit of boxing to allow this fight to take place. But still, I still don't like the concept of it. But, you know, for as much stick as the governing bodies get and the Maurizio gets, it's very difficult because now you've got a situation where one team's asking to make a fight that the whole of boxing wants to see, another team's saying, no, you've promised me a shot and I stepped aside before, you have to do what's legally right. You can't really win. So we'll see. There's a long way to go, but I do feel like as good a fight as Estrada Rungvisai is, people would still be disappointed that they're not getting the 3rd fight. So we'll have to see.
I'll just quickly skate through some of the other fights on that card. Ammo Williams, good win against Dennis Duglin in a first step up. Rayford, I felt a little bit unfortunate not to get the win in his fight, but still 2 great fights. Shout out Eric Botcher, good matchmaking.
Yeah, I think Rayford was disappointing in relation to how he has looked and what we expected. I thought he won the fight 5-3. But listen, if you win the fight 5-3, you've got to be prepared over 8 rounds. You may end up with a draw. He wasn't as dominant as he should be. He looked flat. He didn't look like he had the same zip and power as he has had. So we'll make that immediate rematch over 10 rounds, and he's got to go and win that fight. And I still believe Rayford is one of the best prospects in world boxing. Just had a baby. You know, you start looking back when things don't work out. Just had a baby, probably didn't have the camp that he should have had, you know, but was on a roll and felt like, I'll go in and beat this guy. And he should have beat that guy. But you know, he'll have to do that impressively in the rematch. Thought Ammo was great. I was really worried about the Duglin fight because, again, you know, like Okolie, they've never boxed at that level before. And I know it's different comparisons, but maybe you're not ready yet. But he was. He won every round, nearly stopped him, took a few on the chin as well. And he's a character, Ammo. I mean, real character. He wants to fight Fowler. I mean, that's a big fight. Not yet, but it could be a big fight. And thought Ammo looked great.
Moving on, you mentioned about Katie Taylor, her fight being announced today. Where are we with the May the 1st card? Rumours that it's going to be Chisora Parker as the headline event on pay-per-view?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much right. We're going to announce 4 fights today. All of them headline fights in their own right. There's going to be 6 fights on the card. It's a cracking card. Today we will announce 2 world title fights on that card. And looking forward to finalising everything else.
Chris Eubank Jr. versus Marcus Morrison on that card?
Potentially, yeah. Just speaking to Sowland and we spoke to them about his return and wanted to find him with a Brit. Spoke to Steve Wood about Jack Cullen. A few others were in the mix as well, and the weight was a little bit low for Cullen. But I think you'll see Eubank return on that card.
Katie Taylor versus Natasha Jonas. Is that the fight that's going to be made for that card?
Possibly. I don't want to give the announcement away, but you're eking it out of me. Yeah.
Okay, moving forward. Canelo Alvarez. I've seen more of you with Canelo Alvarez recently than I think I've ever seen you with any other fighter. A blossoming relationship going there between you and Saul.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, he's saying some lovely things about us. Like any relationship, when it's the early stages and it's nice and fresh, it's, you get nice feelings and butterflies in the body, don't you? And at the moment, we're representing, the pound for pound number one, and he's telling everyone we're the best promoters in the world and hopes to be with us for a long time. So we will continue to do a great job for Canelo Alvarez. I'm a little bit in a difficult position with the Billy Joe Saunders fight, because I've now got this opportunity for the second time for Billy Joe to fight the biggest fight in boxing, and you get a little bit of stick from people. Oh, you're a fanboy of Canelo Alvarez, and I want Billy Joe Saunders to win that fight, but I also have a Canelo Alvarez hat on. I have a Billy Joe Saunders hat on, and it's going to be a very difficult fight for Billy. But I believe he has the best chance of anybody in the division to beat Canelo Alvarez.
What's going on with Gennady Golovkin? Still waiting to hear what's going on with him. Jaime Munguia is a fight that's been mentioned. What's the situation with Triple G?
He's looking and planning his next fight and looking at options as well. My relationship with Triple G is more around the promotion of live events. So obviously with Canelo, I'm involved in the strategy moving forward and the global plan and the commercialisation of that. And with Gennady, he makes a lot of those moves himself with his lawyer John Horner and his team there. So I'm waiting really on their plans, and once we put that in place, we'll speak to the broadcasters, and that's where we work on really the execution and the promotion of his events. AJ
Fury, what's the latest?
Latest is we announced, we didn't announce, I gave a quote to say that contracts have been signed, which were last weekend. This week we've been talking to various sites, and we've had a number of offers, and obviously we want to maximise the revenue for the fighters, present that to them. Pretty well documented that we've kind of set ourselves a time frame of about a month to do that. As well as the initial offers, some mad ones this week coming in that we have to check out, and we'll be doing that. Both sides now looking at various options and offers that have come in, and then we'll get together probably early next week, have a little initial meeting and say this is where we're at with this conversation and this conversation, and start looking to present that to the fighters. And again, everyone seems to have information that I don't even have, on this. It's a lot more simple than people try to make it. Oh well, I don't think the fight will happen till later in the year. I'm sure most people would prefer the fight to happen later in the year, given the situation in the world right now. That's not on the table. What's on the table is a June or July fight, and that is what is available to sites that want to host the Undisputed Heavyweight World Championship, the biggest fight in boxing and one of the biggest sporting events in the world. So that's what we're focusing on.
28 days, a month, is that long enough time for you to sort out the broadcast deal for a fight that this big? There's 4 different networks involved.
We can do that in a day. Those conversations have been ongoing for a long time. The broadcasting situation is a stroll in the park. The big issue is where do we go, how much money is being paid, and when does that take place? So, I'm not concerned in the slightest about the broadcast issue. That's been discussed already, and that won't be difficult to overcome. The main issue is presenting the opportunities to the fighters and making sure they're happy with those opportunities.
With regards to kind of broadcast stuff, obviously Anthony Joshua has his deal with Sky. DAZN heavily invested in the USA and the UK. DAZN obviously have a global service where they have a service in other territories. Would they be happy to kind of put it in other territories and miss out on the US and the UK market?
Yeah, that's a conversation between the teams, but I can tell you that's a conversation that was had over a month ago with Bob Arum and the team in terms of the strategy, and we've got the feedback from all the partners as to what they would be happy with, and that is not going to be an issue for us in this fight.
Are there any issues outside of your control?
No, only the fact that I don't represent Tyson Fury and I don't live in his mind. So, you know, but when you look at the negativity towards this fight, the only thing I will say is both fighters and teams have got to approve the deal from the site. So, yes, he could turn around and say, I wanted more, so I'm not doing it. So could AJ. AJ's not going to do that. AJ knows that this is the fight he wants. He wants it now. And, you know, the best opportunity and site fee and date and that presents itself, that's what we're moving forward with. I can't speak on behalf of Tyson Fury. But the reason that I wanted to let people know that the fight had been made is because it's great news. You don't go through a process for 2 or 3 months, you know, arguing and, you know, drafting 30 contracts if everybody doesn't want to do it. So I wanted to give people the news. We've always been upfront with people to let them know that the situation, I'm sick and tired of telling you 2 weeks and this and that. I wanted to give you the news. Doesn't mean that the fight is, the date and venue is announced. What it means is everyone's signed and agreed to move forward and close this deal on the site. And that's what all the parties are doing now.
On a quick couple, because I know you've got to shoot. Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, that case, as I understand it, is still with the arbiter or in arbitration. Could that be a stumbling block here? Could Tyson Fury be contractually not allowed to take a different fight?
I don't believe so, no. And that's not the information we received from his promoters, Top Rank. So I don't see that being an issue at all.
Alexander Usyk, what's the latest with the WBO situation?
WBO have approved Joshua against Fury for the Undisputed Championship. Another reason, by the way, why we want that fight to take place in the summer. And they've ordered Usyk against Joyce. I believe now the argument is about what the split should be for the purse bid for that fight, because they will look at the previous purses of the two fighters, and obviously Usyk's been earning 5, 6, 10 times what Joyce has been earning. So in that respect, I guess they're pushing for a 90-10 or an 80-20 purse bid, of which is probably being argued with and countered. So that's ongoing, but ultimately I expect to see that at purse bid.
Final one. If the fight doesn't happen next, what's the contingency plan for Anthony Joshua?
That is something that I will, you know, keep in my mind. But 100% the only fight he wants, the only fight we're focused on, is Joshua against Fury.
Eddie Hearn, thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social.
Cheers, mate.